engineered a life where the only place I have to be is everywhere. I don't know, man. I mean, I wish I could just sit here and just answer your questions directly, but I would argue that we've gone from like no marketing to performative marketing, which is exciting because the next evolution is effective marketing. So social media by design is a low intent platform. Like you don't turn to your wife and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to find the restaurant we're going to go to tonight. I'm going to open up Instagram." That's not what it's for. You're sitting on the toilet trying to pass time. That is what you use social media for. But it didn't change anything. I would argue that it didn't get me any closer to financial freedom. It didn't get me any closer to freedom of time. And it didn't get me anywhere near freedom of overwhelm. And I thought that it would do all of those things.
On today's episode of the Restaurant AI podcast, I am joined by none other than Josh Kopel. Josh is a restaurateur turned marketing expert. It's the founder of the restaurant scaling system. Josh spent years building and operating a Michelin star restaurant before selling his group and going all in on helping independent operators grow. In our conversation, we dig into why most restaurant marketing is performative instead of effective, how to use AI to hire better employees, and why the industry is headed towards a split between experiential and manufacturing. But before we dive in, a special thanks to our sponsor, ClearCOGS, because the path to greater profits is always clearer when you know what's ahead. With that, I give you my conversation with Josh Kopel. Well, Josh, the man, the myth, the legend himself, I'm excited to have you on today.
I'm excited to be with you, Matt.
You are omnipresent on social media. I don't know how you have the energy to actually advise restaurants and do all the media you do. You are everywhere, my friend.
I have engineered a life where the only place I have to be is everywhere.
What I always find this to be kind of an odd curiosity because, I came out of Jimmy John's when and moved into this whole tech startup world. I didn't have LinkedIn. I didn't have, any social media basically, and had to go learn this skill. Did you have all of this when you were running your restaurant? Were you omnipresent back then, or is this a new thing for you?
What a ridiculous question to ask. Of course I wasn't. I mean, my technological background in the early 2000s, I believe that texting was a fad. I thought it was so much easier to call people on the phone. So all of that to say, I mean, I am not an early adopter. I am today, but spent most of my career telling every tech startup that cold call me, when all of my neighbors buy this, I will buy it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had to figure it out as well because I heard this quote. We had just sold the restaurant group. It was the top of the pandemic, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. And I heard this line, and it is what informed everything that came after. And the line was, what do you do with a big audience? And the answer is anything you want.
And what you want to do, you get that advice. That's pretty open-ended, my friend.
It is. And so that was the thing. And so it just came about, how do I acquire audience? How do I grow market share? How do I gain a listenership? And so I went about it, I think, in some innovative ways. But that's why I got good at all of that, because I don't think there's any value in providing something of value that is not scalable.
Is that the lack of social media, has that changed at all? Because I think I got out in like 2017, 18. You got out in what, 22-ish?
Active like 2021.
2021. Is it become more mainstream that, restaurateurs out there are acknowledging like we need to be on social media and, building maybe not an audience, but relationships and getting our brand out there?
I don't know, man. I mean, I wish I could just sit here and just answer your questions directly, but I would argue that we've gone from like no marketing to performative marketing, which is exciting because the next evolution is effective marketing. And so, what you see is like a bunch of restaurateurs like checking boxes, and it's like, oh, did I post today? All right, look, take a photo of the pie, put it up, beg people to come in.
I think the hardest part there is what boxes are you checking? Because no one really knows. I certainly wouldn't have known what boxes am I supposed to check on the marketing front.
Oh, I think for social media, I think it's really simple. I think that the strategy, and I think this is the most effective strategy there is all you are trying to do is create engagement. That is it. So social media by design is a low intent platform. Like you don't turn to your wife and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to find the restaurant we're going to go to tonight. I'm going to open up Instagram." That's not what it's for. You're sitting on the toilet trying to pass time. That is what you use social media for.
Okay, well, I'm going to push back on that. So I was literally in New York a week ago, and we were looking for a restaurant, and my wife turned to me and said, "You should go on TikTok to find our restaurant," which just, went right above my head. I'm like, I don't know how you search on TikTok for a restaurant, but that seems to be a new thing in the world of marketing.
It is, but it's certainly not widely adopted today.
Why
That is
not?
not the most conventional use case. And as a
Is it an
professional market,
effective use case?
no, because it's
Really?
still a low intent platform. That is not what it was designed to do. It might be a use case for it in the same way like I can run laps on a basketball court, but that's not what it was designed to do. So you could like build your marketing for every conceivable use case, or what you could do is structure it for the primary, which would be what I would advocate for.
All right, sorry, I get off topic on some of these. I
No,
find
you're
social
good.
media to be a fascinating subject. So the one thing I really wanted to ask you, which for all of us that ran chain restaurants, we look at the fine dining world with just awe. It's this whole other thing. Take me back to when you got your first Michelin star and what that was like. Do you remember the moment you found out?
Yeah. Oh my God, yes, for sure.
Paint me
I
the
remember
picture.
who
Tell me
I
the
was
story.
with. I was on the West Side hanging out with a buddy of mine, wandering around. I had I mean, this isn't a very glamorous story. I just started a virtual reservations company like 6 months before. And so I actually had when I got the call from my publicist letting me know that we were going to be included in the Michelin guide, I had my arm like shoulder deep in like a fellow restaurateur's wall trying to like pull phone cable. Um and I was like, oh, God, how exciting. I still need to pull this phone cable. So I did, and it was great. We got them online. But I thought it was going to change everything. It certainly got us busier. Um, but you know, it didn't change my day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was this wonderful thing. It was like an award, right? That like sits on the wall. But it didn't change anything. I would argue that it didn't get me any closer to financial freedom. It didn't get me any closer to freedom of time. And it didn't get me anywhere near freedom of overwhelm. And I
Well,
thought that it would do all of those things.
I think that the process of actually getting to the point where you can get one is interesting. You didn't really come from that world, right? It wasn't like you'd spent a decade working under a three Michelin star restaurant and then
No.
decided. So how did you learn to get the things in place that would result in a Michelin star?
So I think a lot of credit goes to the executive chef who ultimately became my business partner. He had a strong impact on the culture and how we evolved that brand from what was an upscale bar concept into what could ultimately be considered an award-winning restaurant by the Michelin Guide. A lot of it is, and it always kind of goes back to this. I think that it's adopting a marketer's mindset. We iterated really quickly. It always came from an extension of self. Um, when we transitioned from what do we think is going to bring in money to hey, do you know what would be cool? Which I think everybody thinks, oh, well, once I make enough money, then I'll go there. It changed everything for us. And so it was that iterative process of changing everything a little until we became more of ourselves that really, I think, led us to becoming the caliber restaurant that could get that kind of award.
Double click into instead of just doing what will make us money, what would be cool? What do you mean by what would be cool?
So I think that the mistake that we all make as owners and operators is we're always trying to serve the guest. We are always trying to say, well, I think the guests would like this or the guests would like that, or, what would they say if we did this? And what I do with my clients constantly, and anyone that's willing to listen, say, well, how would you be impacted by that? Would you get off your ass and go to that event? A great example would be that like almost everyone in the industry, when they want to get busier, they run a promo, a special, a discount, something like that. When they're not motivated by those things, you think a bunch of restaurateurs are walking around with fucking coupons in their pocket? No, like they don't care, but they do it not because it would work for them, but because they think it would work for this quote unquote guest. When all you have to do is do the shit that you think would be cool, and everyone else is just like you.
Well, you have to be a genuine tastemaker to do that. I mean, my favorite line for the marketing people is, well, I have different views on that, but I'm not necessarily the core demographic that is buying this. So let's go do what you think and see what the data says, which is very different than being like a tastemaker. This is what everyone wants. Or this is what I want to say. Let's see if it resonates.
Food is culture. It is this incredibly personal thing. I think with software, you can build for other people. I don't think you can do that with food because you have to eat it. You're going
Yeah.
to live it. You're going to smell it every single day. Food is an extension of self. I would argue the same is true for beverage. What you're trying to do is impart your belief system, your culture onto other people. And that being the case, I think that it has to come from a very personal place because how could you possibly know what other people want?
It's a good call.
Truly,
It's
like
a good.
you're just not in other people's heads, and so you're only in your head. So if it's just rooted in what you think is cool, I think you'll be okay.
So it brings up a couple interesting subjects, and this is where we're going to go back to the AI side of things.
Sure.
AI is great at taking all the information that's already there, right? Already available on the internet. That's creating something that's cool, that's unique to you is a very it's very centric around yourself, right? It's something that hasn't been done before. Does that mean that, AI will help with creating copycat restaurants in the future, but, the ones that really come, that break through the noise are gonna be the personal expressions of oneself?
Yes, but I think that AI gives you the ability to take that to a deeper level. I'll go back to Will Gadar from EMP. So one of the things that Will said was, when they were crafting the next evolution of EMP, what they wanted to do is they wanted to fill a hole in the market. So rather than looking at what everyone else was doing well, what they did was they looked at like these common holes. Like, what are the things that are missing in fine dining? And like how can we plug those holes? Will did it through looking around, and Will did it because he's like a savvy entrepreneur that was really plugged in and had dined everywhere on the planet. But you can do that through AI. You can scrape data and online reviews to figure out what's missing in your market, and then use that interpretation of that data to take whatever your concept is and refine it to fill a specific hole in the market, creating, I would say, effortless product market fit.
We talk a lot about the human side of hospitality, right? How do we have better human interactions? And throwing technology at it doesn't solve those human interactions. But then there is all the base stuff of running a restaurant that's not sexy, the blocking and tackling, the menu management, your online promotions, your marketing that you still have to be able to do right. Do you think there's a greater deficit in this industry today of the people side? We're not doing a good enough job with managing our people and training our people and being more hospitable, or the basic blocking and tackling of running a restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I think man, I think it's hard. I think it's like the hardest industry in the world. So I'll tackle those one by one. Blocking and tackling, I think a lot of that comes down to your why. I think that we're failing to uh, indoctrinate people into our cultures. I think it still feels very much like a gig by and large. And what we need to do is professionalize the industry and make this a career. I think that when you do that, the blocking and tackling and day to day operations becomes a lot easier because people are able to self manage and self motivate. And I think that they are all working towards a common goal, a common vision. The struggle is ultimately one, you've got to get really good at developing talent
yeah.
because the people the people that you would want to work for you most are going to clock out at some point, right? They're going to graduate college. They're going to go on to other things. So you've got to get really good at developing talent. And I think that AI is a very useful tool for that.
Why?
As a
Why talent? Because that actually doesn't necessarily jive.
What do you mean?
Well, I think if when I wanted to train somebody and make them, let's call it a career employee, the way that I do that is spending personal time with them, working hip to hip, giving them a sense of purpose, helping them understand the why. It was never reading the training manual, right? It was never, let me walk you. I'm trying to think of a good example. It was never like, this is how you clean the toilets. It was going through and teaching them how to clean the toilets and why it was important to do it that way and what it says about the company. I don't feel like AI can really necessarily provide that why, that sense of purpose. Or am I missing
No,
something there?
well, you're not wrong, but I think there's another side to the coin, which is is the person you're talking to naturally predisposed to giving a fuck,
Yeah.
right? That's really what it comes down to. So how do you know? Nobody's applying for a job in the restaurant industry because they want to make fair money for fair effort. Like everybody gets into it for the quick cash. Anyone that tells you any different is full of shit. That's at least why we get in. That's not why we stay, but that's certainly why we get in. And so what ends up happening is Matt, you get all of these people that are applying for jobs that they really wouldn't be good at, that they really on a foundational level are just not naturally predisposed to taking other people's shit or being told what to do, or the level of attention to detail is just next level. And either that is something you are innately born with or you aren't. And I think that the way that we do it, just as an example, is when we create job descriptions, what we do is we take all of the qualities that we love about our best employees, all of the areas that we see room for improvement, and what outcomes we're looking to achieve with this specific role, whether it's a busser or a server or whatever. We
Okay.
create a job description based on that. Okay. And then what we do is we have the AI push a disc profile, a personality profile against that job description. Then once we
Interesting.
know what the disc profile is of that individual, that person that is perfectly naturally predisposed to kicking the shit out of that job, we then have it write a job ad that would only resonate with someone that has that disc profile.
That is brilliant. I mean,
Well, thank
truly,
you.
that is brilliant. Walk me through what happens though. Did it work out?
It's worked out every time we've ever run it, and we've run it hundreds of times. So I'll take you a step deeper. So then all of the applicants apply, right?
Okay.
So what we say is, thank you so much for applying. The last step is please fill out this quick survey, which is a disc test, right? So they fill out the personality profile, and now we have their personality profile. What we do is we ask the AI to craft interview questions that will let us know whether this person has the skills and experience in addition to being naturally predisposed for the role. We then record those interviews and we dump the transcripts for those interviews into the AI, and we have the AI force rank who we should hire based on all of that data.
In this whole
And it
process,
crushes.
which is great. I was waiting for the recording because I can't imagine anybody wanting to like secondarily write all of these things out.
No, certainly not.
What have you learned about finding the right employees for the right jobs? Like going through this process of using AI to place the right employees there. Were there any learnings along the way?
Absolutely. I think so. What anyone that's been any time, like long time, successfully in this industry will tell you is you hire for you hire for culture and you train for skill, right? But hiring for culture, like what does that even mean? Does that
And
mean
what
like
mood am
I
I
want
in the day that I'm doing the interview?
right, exactly. Like would I used to hire people that I wanted to get a beer with, right? And then I tried to hire people that mimicked my values. But I must tell you, after a 45-minute conversation, like how would I know? And so what this does is I have found that if you hire based on exclusively natural predisposition, you are especially in leadership positions when it matters most, you are way more likely to create a successful relationship with someone that is aligned with your objectives than almost anything else.
So that's a good use case for AI. Going through the hiring process. Let's get the right people in the door, use AI as a filter in some ways. I had Tim Martin on recently. He's one of my favorite people to talk to. Longtime hospitality person goes and opens up BoxBox. It's a single unit, brand new. And his whole philosophy was, he opened it right about the time ChatGPT and all of this was coming out. He basically used AI as his first employee. He was doing the menu testing and he'd record the sessions and he'd talk out loud and just document it all and then put it into the AI that now has a record of
Sure.
how he went through it. Have you thought about AI as a tool versus an employee or how to interact with it? Because it's almost a similar experience. You have to train the AI just the way you would train an employee.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we do. So, another example would be SOPs, right? So, like, how do you create bulletproof SOPs that are perfect? What you do is like, I'll give you an example. I think the schedule is a great example. So like, how do you train someone else how to do the schedule? You just do it. You just do the schedule. You loom record it. You talk through the whole thing. When you mess up, you call out, oh, well, I thought this and that, and you just do it 4 times, and then the amalgamation of those 4 transcripts is a perfect SOP paired with a recording that walks them through it step by step.
So is if you were to give advice to restaurateurs today on how to start using AI for some of these simple things, right? Let's develop the right interview questions, scheduling. How do they get started? How do they start documenting this? Any good advice on first steps?
Yeah, so what I recommend for everyone is that you inventory what you're already doing. So I think Gino Wickman with Traction has like a great matrix for this. It's called the delegation matrix, where you basically categorize, what are you great at and love doing, and then you could just keep doing that. What are you great at but you don't like doing, and then the other 2 categories are obviously like you're not good at it and you hate it, or you're not good at it and you don't love it. And then once you know where you stand, you begin to go category by category, offloading that stuff. A hurdle in our industry is effective delegation, which is why nobody does it, which is why everybody is trapped in their business.
Do you see any
Um,
ways that AI actually can interact with delegating more effectively?
Absolutely. I think that actually I would argue so Dan Martell has this book called Buy Back Your Time. Everyone
Okay.
listening should read it. Amazing book. In it, what he talks about, he has this 4 C's process to delegate, which is brilliant. The most brilliant part is the 4th C, which is checklist, which is not what you would think it would be. So in the checklist section, it's not about itemizing all of the things they need to do. Whenever you're checking someone's work, Matt, there's an internal checklist in your mind. All of the shit that you're checking to make sure whether they did it or not, which for some reason never actually lands in the documentation,
Yeah.
right? That is what the checklist is. So that they're actually checking their own work as you. It is the most effective tool that I've found for delegation. And I've seen it work across tiers of dining. I've actually seen it work across industries.
I come from the franchised background, so we were given the checklist. Here is your daily systems and procedures, your weekly beautification items. Here's what you do need to do on a monthly basis. Do most restaurants not even have that checklist?
No. Oh my God. If I could go back and just do one thing differently, I would have worked at Subway. I would have. I would have just, it would have been, I only worked for independence before going independent. And so, like, it's like a clown car, right? It's like the blind leading the blind. But it would have been amazing to go in and at least see what like efficiency looks like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a big difference between being able to get the owner operator or their sole general manager who are singly focused and aligned on this restaurant versus how do we get 10,000 restaurants with minimum wage employees to make sure that they don't make mistakes every day? I mean, you basically have to make it idiot proof systems and procedures. I
Well,
would,
and most restaurant owners are not great managers. If they were, they would be restaurant managers. They wouldn't be restaurant owners, right? And so you've got someone with these visionary qualities that's trying to do implementation work. and then train someone else on how to do implementation work when honestly they're not, naturally predisposed to doing the work. It makes it really, really difficult. So the easiest thing to do is not to say, do it like this, which is almost always a lie. It's to say, watch me do it. This is how I do it. It's a life hack.
Just like the systems and procedures, I mean, where are we with AI adoption today in restaurants? I mean, is anybody really doing this? Or when you bring these ideas to somebody about hiring better people and using AI as a tool, is it like speaking Chinese to them?
Oh, I'm feeling like the belle of the ball these days. So I've been talking about AI for years, and I've been talking about marketing for longer than that. And nobody wanted to hear anything, especially in like 2001, when everyone was coming back to restaurants and it looked like a 90s rap video, like matching jumpsuits, yachts, the whole 9 yards. And then everything fell off a fucking cliff. And now everybody's interested in AI and everybody's interested in marketing. And we should be, because honestly, it is. As a restaurateur, I spent years miserable, Matt, and it was because I did not feel like I could exert control over my business. It all felt overwhelming. And if I needed to make more money today, I didn't have tools or levers that I could pull within my business to do it.
Yeah.
And those levers are marketing, and the tools to get that done, it's AI.
I mean, I
It
think
makes
that
you more yourself. It can make you more authentic. It is the future of AI in hospitality, in my mind, is because you were saying earlier that, we don't need more tech in hospitality, but I would argue that the future of hospitality in tech is hyper personalization.
that makes
Hyper
sense.
personalization, right? The idea that I've got this interesting worldview because I was in multiple tiers of dining. But like you and your wife come to my restaurant, you have a lovely dinner, and you spend $125 each to enjoy that meal. Um, I'm not going to get you back next week. Like I want to market to you, but like I need the platform to know not to invite you in for dinner, that I've got to get you in for Sunday brunch, that I've got to get you in for happy hour, because you're not going to come back for dinner because you've already had it. And that level of hyper personalization where I can market to you something you would truly be interested in is exciting.
It is, but I go back to inventory. We should all do inventory. It's been around
Sure.
for a long time. There's lots of different tech solutions for doing inventory. Yeah, a lot of people don't do inventory, and then they complain why
Sure.
their food costs are high, right? It's like I'm not. What I really want to understand is like why AI is going to be any different, right? Are we just a slow laggard industry, and people just don't want to do it, and that's not going to change, or is this somehow a different type of technology or technology wave?
I think it has nothing to do with the technology itself. And I think it has to do with the implications that are going to come from those that are utilizing the technology.
Elaborate.
We said this before the call, and I told you, I think we are in the midst of this epic reckoning right now. And these are the early stages. So if it looks like a bloodbath now, I would argue just wait and see. It has never been easier to market. It has never been easier to get attention. It has never been easier to effectively sell at scale, whether we're talking about B2B catering or private events. And not everybody's doing it, but what you're going to see is no different than any other industry. Like we're primed for consolidation. What you are going to see is that the top 30% of the industry is going to cannibalize 90% of the business.
So
Because,
when you
go
say
ahead.
30% of the industry, what do you mean by the top? Do you mean the Subways of the world, like the big
No,
chain?
I'm talking about independence. I would say in single units to multi loc, let's go 1 to 5, doing $1 to $3 million per year per unit.
I gotcha. All right. So the best of the independents. It actually kind of plays nicely into what has already been happening. It feels like in the last 5 years, the largest chains are actually now behind technologically compared to the independent restaurant because, I might be stuck with some old infrastructure legacy POS and, my independents got toast and is plugging in and getting all the new tools that they can utilize. I
Sure.
assume that that's kind of the thought process that AI is going to roll out into independence first, and the ones that really utilize it are going to take off.
I agree. I mean, that's what you're saying. It's. I debated whether to say this on the show or not. But what I will tell you is that statistically, the industry is down 18%. And I would argue 90% of my clients are up this year.
Really?
Yeah.
And is that all just top line revenue? Like, as in they're driving more revenue through advertising and it's a sugar high and it's coming in, or is it long sustained growth?
I love that question. So I advocate that no restaurants pay for advertising. I don't think it works.
Okay.
I've never clicked on a Google ad and subsequently gone to a restaurant. Neither have you. No one has. And yet still Google makes a bunch of money off this. Today's episode is sponsored by Google. Um, but the reason that I say
We
that is
speak
because
nicely of our corporate overlords that are building the AI.
indeed we do because they are most certainly listening. But I just don't think advertising is again, it's because all of the platforms on which you are advertising, by and large, it is low intent. And again, no one's ever clicked on a Google ad when looking for a restaurant and then subsequently gone to it. If you have, you haven't. But if you have, email me directly and we'll argue about it.
All right. So you're not
Um,
throwing out low intent advertising to get people in
No,
the
you're
door. What are you
selling.
doing?
It's everything becomes about sales. So like there are only a few ways to make money in this industry. Number one, we re-engineer the menus. We scale the per customer average spend by at minimum $2 to $4, usually more. We do that by focusing on attach rate, selling people a little bit more of what they already want. And so we start there because if you can sell a little bit more to everyone that's walking through your door, you end up in a really good spot. The second thing that we do is we do a competitive analysis. So what we do is we try and scale price and perceived value simultaneously, taking you to about P90, just about top of the market without exceeding. Because most people, if you ask them, you'll say, "Are you top of market?" They'll be like, "Yeah." You're like, "How do you know?" I just know.
Yeah.
I just
I've
feel
been
it,
doing this for 15 years. I
right?
know.
I'm good. When was the last time you checked? Doesn't matter. And so what we do is we do this exhaustive benchmarking audit. And the way that we choose your competitors is by scraping online reviews. And so we actually know who your competitors are. I would argue that by scraping online reviews, I know as much or more about my clients as they do about their own
Yeah.
businesses. Between that and the sales data, I know everything I need to know. Then what we do is we focus on optimizing for conversion. So I heard this great statistic from Adam from owner.com who said that the average restaurant website converts at a 10% rate, which is probably generous.
Yeah.
Meaning that, 1 out of every 10 people that go to your website ultimately decide to patronize your location, order online, whatever it is. Um, Probably generous. I mean, most restaurant websites are abysmal. Nobody's looked at them since the day
Honestly,
before
I'm
they
sitting here
opened.
from a data perspective and just thinking if they can actually quantify conversions, I would be really, really impressed by the restaurant.
You're right. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And so, knowing that the conversion rate is so low, the next thing that we do to help with new customer acquisition is you look at like the thousands of hits they're getting on Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google and their website, but they're not seeing that traffic in their restaurant. So, we optimize all of those surfaces for conversion. And in doing so, we're able to take them from, let's call it 10% to like 30%, 40%, which is massive when you're seeing thousands of hits across those surfaces.
Okay, so I go back to the original question though, which is why are people going to adopt AI quicker? I mean, you paint a wonderful picture of the restaurants that are using it are, growing that much quicker. You must sit down with these restaurants and say, we're going to use AI to do the following things for the following reasons. What pushback do you get? Like what's the zeitgeist from the restaurant owner today and their views on AI?
Oh my God, none. None thus far. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong people, or maybe we do a really good job on the front end of brainwashing people. But when I turn to people and say, listen, you need an amazing newsletter, these are the components it needs to have, and they go, that feels overwhelming. And then I say, here's a link to a custom GPT that will just ask you 5 questions and build it for you. They're into it.
So is the barrier there just a lack of knowledge of how to use the tools and how easy it'll
Yeah,
be?
I think I think that the lack so with AI in general, and I listened to a bunch of your episodes. The problem with AI is it's not even a thing at this point. It's like an idea,
Yeah.
right?
You could do
And
a
the
brunch
problem
menu for me. That makes me
is
happy.
that's
It's
it.
like I get it. Like it's not scary. It's not the Terminator, but it can do a brunch menu. That's kind of
but
it.
the problem is if it can do everything, most people use it to do nothing. I would
That's a
argue,
good way of putting it. Yeah.
right? And so because you just kind of sit there and you're like, well, what can I have it do? And it's like, oh, well, I do need to take my dog to the vet. Let's find a good vet. Because like it can do everything. I mean, I use it probably 8 hours a day. My entire team, we are in like a group chat GPT, like enterprise account where we're
Yeah.
all living and working in the same thing. And like, I'll turn to my wife and she'll be like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, just ask chat GPT. Like, don't ask me. I don't know anything about anything.
I
And
could
like, we just,
speculate if you'd like me to. I know that
sure.
I can look it up for you. That'll
I
help.
have gotten messages from clients, Matt, that are like, hey, what do you think about this? How would you go about solving this? And then they will immediately email me back and go, never mind. I went and asked the robot. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's
you've got to
become a
accustom
default
people.
response. When somebody asks something internally, it's like, well, have you already looked it up while using AI? Because if not, go do that and then ask me again.
For sure. I think that it's great for ideation. I think that it's great for execution. I think it's great to codify frameworks. And so, I mean, what we've done is we've made it bite size. It's step by step by step. We tell you what you need to do. We teach you what good looks like, and then we give you the tool to do it. And I think that that's how AI will ultimately end up rolling out.
Now, I'm probably biased on this because this is my personality and I'm probably projecting it on everybody else. But it does feel like in the restaurant industry, the people who make it have this, it's myself against the world. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to create this. It's a very creative mentality that doesn't like to ask for help in some ways. I'm going to go figure things out the hard way. And first off, am I imagining that a lot of restaurant owners kind of figure things out the hard way through experience and are untrusting of others?
I think the result is accurate, but the intention is inaccurate.
What's the intention?
I would say that the truth is that this is an industry that, because margins are so slim, you can't really afford to get help with anything. You are just forced to figure it out on your own. I don't think there's any independent restaurateur out there saying, you know what, I'm as good as a bookkeeper. I'll just do my own books. I think that they do it because they don't think they can afford a bookkeeper, because they see it as an expense, not an investment. I think that this is an industry, I can take it from firsthand perspective, that it feels like you are obligated to understand and be good at so many different
Yeah.
things, because you can't afford the alternative.
You don't need to be a master of anything, but you need to be competent in this wide swath of things, which I would agree. That's where AI comes in, because you don't need to be a master. You just need to know that this is the problem. I always go back to my air conditioning. Like there was this one little button in the back hidden on the thing. And like I'd hit the button and it would save me from having to call the AC guy to come in for a $200 repair. If I could go take a photo of my AC and upload it to AI and be like, it's doing the following thing, what do I do? Like, that's what I really need. And it does level the playing field in that sense.
I agree. I think, again, life in general, and like, I've been doing my podcast for almost 6 years now. If you learn anything through doing, 600 plus episodes, it's that the magic in life is about just learning to ask better questions.
Does it change? The other one is this, you've never seen a technology that's gotten mass adoption from the general public as quickly as AI has. I have to imagine there's got to be a natural flow through from the 18-year-old kid that I've got working part-time that says, well, hey, why didn't you ask ChatGPT how to fix the ice maker? Like, let me do this. Are you seeing any of that, like almost the employees bringing it in to help them do their job that's helping the restaurant?
No.
Really?
We have not seen any of that. We actually train not only the owners, but we train their key leaders on how to like leverage this stuff and disseminate it.
Interesting. So it's not bottom up yet. The
Well, it's
employees.
also, is there mass adoption for AI? I mean, you can look at and here's why I would ask that question, just to go ahead and just split the hair in half. A ton of people have signed up for ChatGPT. No argument. Like, more people on the planet have signed up. In terms of the people paying $20 a month for it, it's less than 5%. So everyone, almost 95% of people out there, are using a horrible version of ChatGPT, which is idiotic, relative to what $20 a month will get you.
Hey,
So have they?
I had my father-in-law come in and said, I use ChatGPT for everything." And then he gave me a response that it gave. I'm like, "That makes no sense." And I went and looked, and he had some, farmed out fake version of ChatGPT that he was
Sure.
paying for that was, regurgitating the stuff. So you might be onto something there that, although people think they're using an out-of-date version or some knockoff application.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other question is like, how are you using it to serve your life? Again, I think that in our industry, there's this deep rooted belief that no one will ever do anything like as well as we can,
Yeah.
which is objectively true,
Yeah.
but it
I
doesn't
thought you were
need to
gonna
be
say
done.
false, and I was ready to push back on that.
No, it
You're
just
hoping to get
doesn't need to be done
80%
the
of
way
what
you
you would
do
have
it.
done. Yeah.
I so vividly remember, I took this client from unprofitable to profitable, but like still living in his business to no longer in his business and miserable as a result because he lost himself. And now we're building another restaurant. But in that process of taking him from profitable to outside of the restaurant, he showed up late to a call. And I was like, dude, why are you late? And he was like, dude, I got to show these guys how to clean a fryer. And I was like, just let them clean the fucking fryer.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Like, there's no way. Like, I get it's not as good as you would do it, but like, it's fine. We can let that go. It was the last time he's ever cleaned a fryer. And here we are more than a year later, and he's just fine. The place hasn't burnt to the ground due to a grease fire. I don't think that things need to be done as well as you do them. I just think that they need to be done well enough.
Hey, Josh, how long before ChatGPT gets so good that it's consumed all the stuff that you've put into it, that you've put out externally, where like I can just have digital Josh Kopel that is answering all of my restaurant related questions, helping me hire. This is all going to be on the record, right? You just informed how to hire using Disc and AI. Like, what's that mean for the future of, consultants, and how far off are we from that?
So we're not far off at all, Matt. You can actually go to my website today, joshkopel.com. And there is, I hired the same company that built Tony Robbins AI to build mine. It's consumed everything I've ever written, every podcast I've ever done, every podcast I've been on, all of my coaching curriculum. And people could just go there and just ask it questions.
So what's the
Um,
difference though?
Speed and proximity. I believe, and I don't believe that people pay me for what I know. I think that they pay me for speed and for proximity to me.
I would think they would
Because
pay you to avoid the mistakes, right? How do I avoid the 3 mistakes I'm gonna make on my journey to the right answer?
Matt, do you know how to get a six pack? Do you actually know? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I go down to the beer store and I just buy one.
right. That would be my point. So, I spent 2 years in my very early 20s working part time as a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness. So I was subsequently fired from that job, like I was from every job I ever had. But while I was there, what I learned was this: is it like there's this massive delta between simple and easy. Those are two completely different things. And so, Derek Sivers has this great quote. He says that if knowledge was enough, we'd all be billionaires with six packs. And that is the truth. So I give it all away. Dude, I host a monthly webinar. It's this 5-day masterclass where I literally articulate everything that we do with our clients. We provide templates and examples and case studies. And it's not like, oh, this is how you make more money. It's like we walk you granularly through all of that. And people still engage with me and my company. And it's because if that's what I'm giving away for free, can you imagine what my clients get?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I wanna fast forward. Let's say we are giving you away for free and it
Sure.
is effective and the AI is doing it. Do you see a way that this industry actually gets lifted up from its current state? Because forever, it feels like we churn and burn employees. We have low margins. Restaurants, I forget what the stats are, but the 80%, 90% go out of business in the first couple of years. That seems to have been the status quo. Is this if this really comes through to fruition the way we want it to, right? will it actually change the economics of the business, and how so?
Oh yeah, I think that we're heading in one of two directions. It's and I know I'm not the first person to say this, but I think we're headed towards experience or manufacturing. And
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's probably always been that way. But I think that you're going to see the chasm just grows that much wider and deeper. So on the manufacturing side, I'll give you a great example. We went to this place called the Windmill down the street from my house, and it's like a food hall. And I went into this thing. I ordered off a kiosk. They texted me when my food was ready, and I just grabbed it. And like I didn't interact with a single human that was part of the process. But that was manufacturing, dude. I was trying to get a poke bowl.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to have like a dining experience.
Everything
Um,
I order on DoorDash, manufacturing. I am not
right.
looking for experience.
And then on the other side is home and EMP and fine dining, and not just fine dining, but full service, right? Where like it's not just a 3-star Michelin experience, but like you're out with friends and the bartenders are fun and the music is great and you're meeting people and like
I'd
all
argue
of
that when I
that.
go into my local barbecue spot, right, I want that feel. I want the wood floors, right? I want that experience of where this barbecue came from.
For sure. And so like that is those are not the extremes. Those are going to be the tent poles. And then everything in the middle is going to be crushed. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. There is a deli that will remain unnamed because I love their Reuben and I hate everything else about their business. I go to this place, and the problem is they think they're in the wrong business. So they think they're in the experience business, and they're actually in the manufacturing business. I want a sandwich. And the fact that I have to sit at a table and wait for one of their like understaffed, exhausted servers to walk up and take the order, it is inconvenient for them. It is inconvenient for me. I'm never going to get a refill on that water. And like all I really wanted was the Reuben. And like that is a business that is going to get obliterated through this process.
Whatever happened to the whole ghost kitchen, dark kitchens, because that would have been the right setup for that manufacturing style restaurant.
You know, I think that the reason that those didn't take off, I think it's a marketing issue. I think everything's a marketing issue, Matt. But I think
Shocker.
that that is
Hammer, nail.
hammer nail. It's a brand equity issue. Is that what you never saw outside of Goop Kitchen was you never saw a virtual kitchen achieve any level of brand significance.
Well, they had Gwyneth Paltrow, so that helps
They
on
did.
the brand side of things. But don't
Look,
you
I
think
know the team behind that. That was a mixture of like a blockbuster brand paired with best in class execution.
all the Cheesecake Factory guys?
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. They knew how to manufacture
They
things. They knew how
did.
to
Oh
do
my
it well.
God. They did an amazing job.
Yeah, I also think that the brand equity thing is a big part of it, right? And you get the brand equity from the first time you actually go to the physical location. And once you've like somehow in your mind envisioned where the food's coming from, you're like, all right, good, manufacture it. But I don't know how you get the brand equity without the experiential.
You have to, I believe that you have to have, I mean, Goop Kitchen is opening physical locations. And it's
Yeah.
easily one of the most successful virtual brand in history. And they're opening physical locations where they could theoretically open virtual locations. But they don't because what they want is they want the brand equity.
Yeah, they also bring in, best of class technology providers, people that could, provide predictive forecasting so they can
Sure.
expand. Sorry, we work with them. I can't help but
That's it. Watching alongside Mario build that brand was just
wow,
amazing.
they're
Just a
an insane brand
masterclass.
and they're an outlier, right? But I do think that if you're right on the fact that if you can provide great product and you can manufacture it well, it does scale, and that is a big part of the future.
It
So
is. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say stepping forward in the future, right? So I like the framing. There's the experiential, right? I want to go in, I want to feel, I want to talk to the waitress, I want to talk to the bartender. AI is not going to do anything for the experiential side. That's still a very people-driven business. I think on the manufacturing side, that you look at AI probably running a lot of that. Walk me through how you view the next couple years, the next 5 years. How do you see the industry changing, along those lines?
So I I would argue that from the experiential side, again, I'm a huge advocate of hyper personalization. And I think that when it's not there, you're going to feel it. Like, I think that at some point you will be offended when you walk into a restaurant and they ask, "Hey, Matt, have you ever been here before?"
Yeah.
You're going to be like, "How do you not know? How do you not know what I like?" You should know. Like right now, it's creepy, but at some point in the near term, it will become the
I
expectation.
disagree. I don't think it's creepy. I think we all walk into a restaurant today and we want to hear that one line. Hey, Matt, you want the usual today? Right? Like that's the
Right.
line. We want cheers,
At scale.
at
At
scale.
scale. I think it's a beautiful thing. Look, when Apple did that big update where like I had to give Facebook permission to target me with ads, I was like, talk dirty to me, Facebook. Like, give me the things I like. Like, I don't want things I don't want to buy. I want things I do want to buy. Like, track me. Let me know.
Yeah,
And
I do
maybe
think the
I'm
hyper
alone in that, but I got to
personalization,
tell you,
it
I
makes
think
total
personalization
sense.
is everything.
I also think that we're in this weird world right now where we have built restaurants around all of these constraints. And what do I mean by constraints? I need a fixed menu. I can't just have ingredients floating around. Or, we always use on the forecasting side, if I knew exactly how much brisket I was going to go through, then I could do a 3-day marinade and make just the
Sure.
right amount. At what point do we stop retrofitting things like AI and technology around our existing brands, but start to think, okay, if I have AI, how would I reimagine my brand today? How would I set up my technology better? Yeah,
I think that's a great question. I also think it's a great question because I don't think it would be that expensive to do it.
I don't think so
Um,
either, but it
I
doesn't.
think when you look at the delivery side, I think that's what you've seen just endless bolt-ons, right? Like you have the software that does the software, and then now these two softwares, and now I've got this other software that's going to interpret. Um, I think that at some point you've got to come back to first principles. What changed everything in my restaurants was not that I became wildly successful. It was that I reached a level of unhappiness where like I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it the way I want to do it. I'm gonna do it the way I think is right. And if that doesn't work, I would rather burn this thing to the ground. And that's when everything turned around for me.
I
Um,
have to imagine, by the way, there's a little self-selection here because there's 4 guys who said the same thing that ran their business out of underground.
well, I mean, I lost a lot of money. I mean, when we opened the fine dining restaurant, I lost like $250,000 in the first year. It was
Oof.
going to take out the original bar that we had opened. It was going to be a disaster, but it felt like a compromise. And what I did was I went back to first principles. And to your point, which is I think what you're speaking to, I think that's what everybody should do. I don't think anybody should be like, well, I did pay $25,000 to have this squirrel point of sale system installed 15 years ago. I think we need to say if we were to build it today, like what would we do differently? What options are available? I'm literally having this conversation now. A close friend of mine owns 7 restaurants in Los Angeles. This is the first year they've ever not made money. And so he called me and he was like, can you help? And I was like, I would love to. And like, it has just been this endless succession of saying, why do you do that? And
Yeah.
he's like, because we've always done it. And like, it's always worked. Like, we've never had a problem with it. And there are 1,000 things like that in our businesses that if we were to all give ourselves the grace of a month to just kind of look at every facet of the business and just say, would I do it this way again? I
But you
think
got a
everything
kitchen
changes.
fire and a fryer to clean, and you just don't have the time and the bandwidth.
You can make the time. You really can. And the way that you do it is you let someone else put out the kitchen fire, and you just let the dishes stay dirty.
Honestly, you probably end up with better employees when you actually delegate and say, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to figure out how to put out the kitchen fire."
Dan Martell calls it strategic ignorance. It changed everything in my life and my business.
All right, hold on.
Um,
I like that line, strategic ignorance.
oh, it's
Define that.
fantastic. So, strategic ignorance is people don't come to you for a solution. They actually come to you to delegate thought. That is what they want to do. They just don't want to absorb the bandwidth to figure it out on their own. And so what you do is you force the thought. So you come to me and you say, listen, the bar is on, or we'll say, we'll give a real example, right? Yo, Josh, I'm giving you a call because the floor drains are flooded. I go, oh my God, that's like a huge issue. How bad is it? He's like, it's really bad. what should I do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not a fucking plumber. What do
Yeah.
you think we should do? Say, oh, well, maybe we should call a plumber. Do you know of a plumber? No, I mean, I'm a restaurateur. I'm not a plumber. I don't know any other plumbers. Do you know any plumbers? Well, I guess I could look some up online. Well, okay. Do you want to do that? And then maybe call me back. Yeah, I'll give you the option. Well, why don't you just pick one and call them? Okay, I'll go do that. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And once they figure out on a long enough time horizon that you're never going to help them, they would just help themselves.
This is the one that I struggle with, raising kids. I always feel like we're fighting yesterday's problem. So
Sure.
my parents always bring up social media and the kids being on social media. And I always think that was yesterday's problem. By the time they're old enough, like a lot of that's going to be figured out. I actually think the next problem probably will be AI in some ways. So that's the problem we probably need to start thinking about today.
Sure.
If I just start asking AI to go figure out the plumber thing and I never have to go through that cognitive exercise of creative problem solving, I just feel like you kind of get stupider in some ways. They say people that use AI a lot actually are losing that skill and are not as, I think they call it the getting dumber, but define dumber however you want. You see that at all? How do you think about that?
Do you know everybody's phone number?
No,
Like, do you know how to get to everywhere without Google or Apple Maps?
no,
Um,
absolutely not.
I think that there's just, it's we're probably of a similar age. I see a little gray in your beard. I would look like Santa if I grew mine out. Here's what I'll tell you. I think that there is certain information that needs to be inherent, that needs to be in this thing. But then there's also a lot to be said for access to information. And I think that it is more valuable 9 times out of 10 to have access to the information or have the capacity to get the information to ask the right questions than it is. I also think that prompt engineering is the nature of getting better at asking questions, which if we all did that, I think the world would be much better served.
Talk to me about the technology stack. I mean, I always feel like, there's a million different technology providers in restaurants. And half the reason I feel like is because every restaurant needs something a little different, right? So there's not this one magical platform. How do you navigate with your clients the right selection of technologies for their business?
I'm pretty agnostic, to be completely honest with you. I've never done affiliate deals or anything like that. I would argue that all of the purveyors have strong suits and weaknesses. Generally, the way that it works is, I only focus on making money. So it's the only area that I'm focused on. I leave it to the David Scott Peters of the world, who is a brilliant man, a mentor, and a friend. I leave it to him to help people figure out how to save money. I think everybody should do coupon or what is it, menu cards. I didn't, but you should. I think all of that, and so we focus on making money as it relates to that. What I'm looking for a best in class CRM. I'm looking for the ability to set up forms, email automation, text message automation, the ability to create tags, and to automate social media, both post and engagement.
All right. So where I was going with this is how long before do you think I'm just going to build my own technology. I'm going to go tell AI, this is what I want my CRM to look like, and it to just do a carbon clone of the best CRM. Do you think that we ever get to a point where, the Tim Martins of the world who are kind of building their own back of house and, utilizing Olo on Rails for the ordering side? Do, do you think that there's an appetite for restaurants to do that, to want hyper personalized software, or do you think they'll always want something kind of prepackaged?
I don't know. I mean, as far as like how close are we to it? Sam Altman in the last big Chat GPT when they released five, he used a phrase that like haunts me, which is software on demand.
Yeah.
That is the age we're entering, is software on demand. So what does that mean? That means like, do I think that independent restaurants are going to start competing with OpenTable or Yelp? No. But do I think that they'll create their own mobile app that'll work just as well as everything else on the market? Of course they are. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? You can do with using like Lovable, you can do stuff like that now. So, as it relates to that, I mean, and you know a lot about this too. I would argue that OCR technology still has a long way to go before like we're able to like allow anyone on the planet to do like the things that you do. Um,
No, but I do feel like when you look at the base infrastructure for restaurants, my back of house technology, right? Like you said, how do I optimize my menu and menu mapping? You know, that's something that I could probably set up with AI today,
oh,
right?
for sure you could. We
And I
use
can
AI to do it for our clients.
yeah, and then you could literally tell your AI to go do my benchmark pricing every month and tell me what to adjust. You know, but that would be a really complicated thing to do with, utilizing all the existing infrastructure, right? Like, if I had to get it all to work together today, be like, "No, it's never gonna work." But if I started from a clean slate and said, like, "I'm just gonna build this little thing," right? It would almost be easier.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I would also say that like restaurateurs, I don't think are ever in that headspace. I
Yeah.
think I think that the lens through which we look at everything is this: will it make me money or will it save me money? I've consulted over the years with a bunch of SaaS companies in this space, and because everybody gets into it with this $1 billion industry. If you get 0.5%, you're loaded. But market penetration is the hurdle, right? And everyone's like, "How do you get in?" I'm like, "It's easy. You just make it free." And how do you make it free? It's got to make you enough and save you enough money from the outset that like you're good to go. It is, for me with the coaching program, we make you all of the money that we charge you in the first month. And in doing so, like it just takes the pressure off. And so all of that to say, I think that software companies will use AI, which will enable them because I don't think if you're not getting people an immediate ROI like you, Matt, it is not because of you, it is because of the implementation on the restaurant side.
Yeah.
That is where the lag is. And what AI will be able to do on the restaurant side is expedite that process. That's the advantage.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I agree fully with what you just said, right? We can bring you all the way to the finish line, but at the end of the day, we don't run your restaurant. So
Sure.
you still have to do it. And in some ways, I think AI's it can serve up the perfect plan for you. But at the end of the day, you've got to execute. And it's an implementation problem. And you got to get restaurants bought into, okay, I'm actually going to do that. And that's why they call you. And they say, okay, I'm kind of at the finish line. You just say, hey, you got to go to the gym if you're going to actually get
Right.
results, dude. Like, you want the six pack, stop picking it up at the grocery store on the way home and hit the gym.
Right. That's it. And so I think that the future of my side is very similar to the future of your side. I think that the great advantage of AI is I tell my clients this on the first call. So I give them the scoreboard and I'm like, these are the things we're tracking. These are the things that I think are going to move the needle in your business. And I tell them all, I say, I want you to grade me based on the results that you get, not on the effort that you see me put into it. And so on your side, on the software side, and then also on my side through a consultancy, I think what AI is going to enable us to do is get our clients better results faster.
Yeah. So just to kind of like, round things out, what gives you hope that this industry is going to return to better margins? We're going to return to more stable employment. It's nice to say that AI is just going to make things easier and knowledge available and we'll get there. But, what gives you hope? And it doesn't need to be just AI.
I, you know, Here's what I'll tell you. I think that the industry is becoming progressively more open-minded. I don't think that we're early adopters, but I think that we're becoming adopters in general, which I think is really exciting. Um, when I started doing these monthly master classes, I started like a year and a half ago. Like it would be like 15 people show up. That was it. And I mean, I want you to understand, like, they're free, you know? They don't cost anything to do. Like, it costs me time and money and effort, but it costs them anything. Like 15 people would show up month after month, and then 16, and then 18. Hundreds of people show up to this. And at the end of the day, like, these all become long-term relationships where they're like, oh my God, my numbers are tracking better here and there and the other thing. And that's not to say that they're taking every second of what they're given in every tactic and implementing it in their business. Um, but what killed me as an entrepreneur was the fear that came from hopelessness. It wasn't that I thought I'm too dumb to figure out what the solution is. It was that at times I believed that there was no solution.
Yeah.
And what I am seeing, what gives me hope, is the fact that people are actively looking for solutions. And I would argue there's some damn good solutions out there today.
And that's not out of desperation. We've run out of options, and so we're finally going to look out there. Or is it out of desperation?
It's hard to tell. I think that it's different for everybody. Nobody, I mean, you, me, we're all the same. Nobody starts a business thinking this is going to crush me. We all start thinking, how hard could it possibly be? Um, and so that being the case, I think as people come back down to earth, I think as people begin to see other people in their communities flourishing, I think that I think you're going to see this take off pretty quickly. We are a referral industry.
Yeah. Well, what are some last pieces of advice you would give the independent owner or operator that's out there today that might feel like they're on an island, that might feel like they're failing, that might feel hopeless, that could help them, be less so and get on the right path?
Every epic failure in my career was the result of a lack of focus or focusing intently on the wrong things, sadly for me. If I know a lot, if I'm like an expert at anything, it's only because I'm giving you all of the things that I tried that worked because I tried everything that didn't work as well.
What's the
Um,
famous saying? It's not the things that you don't know that get you in trouble. It's the things you know for sure that just aren't so. Something like
right.
that. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's very much the case. And so um, what solved everything for me was this relentless pursuit of trying to figure out what are the leading indicators in my business that would change everything. And so, like, if you need more money today, I would argue we just get people to spend more when they come to your restaurant. There's no
Get them,
greater opportunity.
yeah, get the
Um,
most out of them.
that's it. And in a good way, because the truth is this: somebody comes to your pizza place and they have a couple of slices of pizza and they leave, you're a commodity business. People have to order more to have the whole experience so that you become a category of one. If you're worried about new customer acquisition, look at your digital services. Make sure that they're clean, that they're compelling. People eat with their eyes. What does the photography look like? Have you explained how you fit into people's lives? That this is a great place for lunch or a delicious place for dinner or come here for date night. We'll get you laid. Whatever the use case is, make sure that it's clearly articulated. And the last big thing I would say is everybody wants new customers. It's like the crack cocaine of our industry. But I would ask everyone listening, like, what happens to your business if everyone that visits you once a month comes in twice a month? If everyone that visits you infrequently comes in once a month? I think that if we loved the people that have already given us money a little bit more and we communicate with them in a way that would resonate with them, I think a lot of our financial woes would dissipate.
And just to get on my soapbox for a second, I'd say the same about the employees. I just need good hires. How about we look at the hires we have and make them good employees and not just churn and burn them as well.
Amen.
Well, Josh, anybody that wants to find you, hear more about you, get on that webinar that you're giving away and putting the time and energy into, how do they find you?
JoshKopel.com.
Nice. I love it. Well, Josh, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the industry.
Dude, it was my pleasure.
All right. Well, have a wonderful night.